Welcome back, all you PGL fans. I'm OldManTup, and this is the weekly recap for Season 3, Week 5 of the PGL. This week saw many matchups, some short and some really long. So let's dive right into it, and we're going to start with a short one. That is the Knutsford Kabutops, led by Tops, against the Seattle Staraptors, led by Gearhart. Now, this was a really brief match. I think the total combined uploads between the two coaches added up to be about 15 to 16 minutes long. And more or less what happened with this match, Manaphy got a tail glow up, and it was pretty much GG from that point. A little bit of switching around in the beginning of this match, but what it come down to, Manaphy got back in, got up a tail glow, and there really wasn't an answer for that on the side of the Staraptors. And looking at the teams, we had Mega Manectric, Manaphy, Weavile, Volcarona, Mawile, and Lucario for the Kabutops against Mega Sableye, Scizor, Florges, Kabutops, Typhlosion, and Nidoqueen for the Staraptors. And looking over this, the Staraptors, half their team goes down in one shot from a standard Manaphy. So team building might not have been on the side of the Staraptors this week. Maybe they thought Manaphy wouldn't be coming because of other things that could have been brought, but unfortunately there just wasn't much stopping Manaphy after it got up that tail glow. Florges was the closest thing to a stop that they had with a light screen, but even that proved not to be enough to beat Manaphy. Manaphy did get a crit Dazzling Gleam on a Mega Sableye, while Mega Sableye had one Calm Mind and Manaphy had one Tail Glow set up with the light screen, I believe, still intact. But in the long run, I think that just delayed the inevitable, and as was explained by Tops on his side, based off of damage calcs and rolls, it ultimately would have been a losing endeavor for Mega Sableye. So unfortunately, Gearhart is going to take the loss this week. Because of the rules of the PGL, he ran before the match was over. It was ultimately, as the game played, a 5-0 because of the rules and him running. It automatically goes to a 6-0 in the favor of the Kabutops. Now let's move on to the New York Shellnuts, coached by Supagassy, Season 2 D-League champion, against the Sydney Sea King, and that is coached by Laxlime. Now this was a very stalemate-ishy match through the beginning, and where the one play, and it happened about midway through, that really swung the momentum and had a lot of impact was Drapion stayed in on Mew and got up a layer of Toxic Spikes. I mean, because it was just tit for tat at that point. No one was really making any headway, and Drapion got up those Toxic Spikes, which just slowly wore down the Sydney Sea Kings. Now, before we get too far in it, let's examine the teams that were brought. On the side of the Shellnuts, we had Mega Altaria, Hitmonlee, Talonflame, Mamoswine, Fortress, and Drapion. And for the Sea Kings, we had the Bear Arctic, Tornadus T, Rotom H, Keldeo, Mew, and Registeel. Now, like I said, after those Toxic Spikes got up, it really took a toll on the Sea Kings. It just slowly whittled everything down, and it pretty much just became a war of attrition at that point for the Shellnuts. Scary moment happened towards the end of the match when Tornadus was able to get up a Rain Dance, and the Sea Kings unveiled their Bear Arctic, who was choice banned, and it just started making Pokemon quiver in their boots, because nothing wanted to come into a rain boosted choice band Aqua Jet. And the Bear Arctic set was a very good set this week. Props to the Sea Kings on bringing that, because it just Unfortunately, it was so late in the match, wasn't able to put in the work, and like I said, those toxic spikes did almost all the damage on Bear Arctic. So that was definitely important. But yeah, that Bear Arctic set was just fantastic, and it ended up being a 2-0 victory on the side of the Shellnuts. Next match we're going to move into was actually recorded on Showdown due to scheduling conflicts and some genning issues, and that is the Boston Sylph Scarfs, my apology, led by True Norseman, and that is going to be against Seattle Smeargle and Sketchy Smeargle as their coach. Now let's run down the teams before I get too excited in talking about this match. The Silk Scarfs brought Umbreon, Victini, Megazard Y, Conqueror, Suicune, and Dawnfan. And the Smeargles brought Megalopony, Arcanine, Alamamola, Kyurem, B, and Jolteon and Skarmory. Now this match started out very much the way the Silk Scarfs anticipated it to do, but unfortunately that was the last bit of goodness for the Silk Scarfs. They were playing very rushed, and after some things went unfavorably in their way, they just seemed to be playing on tilt the majority of the match, at least until the halfway point. They picked up a little bit of momentum, but unfortunately by then the damage had been done and there wasn't much they could do to overcome it. You could say that they didn't play to the top of their potential, and their coach True Norseman states that multiple times in his narrative of the video. Just an unfortunate happenstance that really made him play on tilt almost the entire match. Some of the highlights from this match, counter Skarmory being a thing, and what good prep by the Smeargles to bring that, because that thing just stood toe-to-toe with the physical threats on the Silk Scarf team. It was revealed turn 2, I think, and it still put in the work. As far as planning for the Silk Scarfs, they really had too much invested on getting Curse's baton passed off of Umbreon onto other Pokemon. Now granted, that would had it worked, it would have been fantastic, but the entire match seemed dedicated solely to pulling that off, and I think that really hindered their ability to long-term plan for this match, because all they were doing the rest of the match was second-guessing, who should I have baton passed into, what should I have baton passed into, would it have been better in this happened, in this circumstance, or what else would have played. And once that the baton pass shenanigans started going awry, unfortunately True just seemed to not have his head in the match and started making little slips here and there that ultimately led to a 3-0 victory for the Seattle Smeargles. But both competitors in this match played very well. Endgame Suicune still notched up 3 kills, even though it was toxic and hurting almost the entire match. He still played around it very well to get Suicune the 3 kills that it did get on the team. Next, we're going to be moving on to the Minnesota Wild Charge, coached by Sharp Dress Gaming, and he played the Detroit Cabalians, coached by Nestor Holyfield. In this match, the first 10 minutes of this match was just switch, move, switch, move, switch, move, switch, move. Poke didn't go down until the 10-minute mark. And the only reason that happened, in my opinion, again, was because of fantastic planning by the Cabalians. Because had it not gone down at that point, I'm honestly not sure that it would have. What happened, Cress had been out, as well as Aegislash. Cress went for the Shadow Ball as Aegislash switched in, which activated Aegislash weakness policy, which the damage that Cress currently had at the time made it possible for Aegislash, well, after the boost, I don't think it really would have mattered from Weakness Policy. Weakness Policy is actually really good this week, and you'll find out why later. But Cress went down to a Shadow Ball from Aegislash, and it just slowly deteriorated from the Wild Charge beyond that point. Shortly after that, Mandibuzz went down, and after the defensive core went down, it just seemed like they were making desperate switches to try to catch the momentum, which they never did again beyond that point. Air Balloon Heatran notching up 3 kills for the Cobalions this week. Super clutch. The Air Balloon not getting popped till almost the very end of the match. And it was just fantastic. Regular Slowbro. Standing in, taking hits like a boss the whole match, just shrugging off everything that the Wild Charge tried to do to build momentum. And that match is going to go a 2-0 in favor of the Cobalions. I don't think I named the Pokemon, so we're going to do that now. The Cobalions brought Aegislash, Heatran, Slowbro, Tyrantrum, Gorbis, and Mega Venusaur. And the Wild Charge had Cresselia, Mega Mawile, Kyurem, Landorus T, Medicham, and Mandibuzz. And like I said, after the defensive core of the Wild Charge went down, even though they pack a lot of heavy hitters between Medicham, Mega Mawile, Landorus T, and Kyurem, they just wasn't enough to overcome the deficit of not having defensive switch-ins to be able to absorb damage, and it just wore them down over time. So like I said, that was a 2-0 victory in favor of the Detroit Cobalions. The next match, we're going to be moving on to the longest match of the week, and that was the New York Clinks, coached by Papacy, going up against the Blackthorn Frogadiers, coached by Iyoku. I hope I said that right, because I'm terrible with names. Now, the teams brought, on the Frogadiers side, Entei, Gastrodon, Latias, Greninja, Hitmontop, and Klefki. And the Clinks brought Infernape, Tangela, Mega Metagross, Clefable, Alakazam, and Rotom Wash. And I think they said in the match a couple times, this was like an over 50 turn battle. And when you're doing that on Wi-Fi, that really drains you, and in long term just makes it so hard to stay focused when you're playing for an hour at a time. Now, this match started off with a pair of misses. They started off Greninja being in against Clefable. Clefable was switched out into Lantern. No, the other water electric type. My apologies. It switched into Rotom Wash and straight up missed a Gunk Shot. And unfortunate, that would have probably done at least 50% and would have been a 2-hit KO, and really prolonged the usefulness and longevity of that Rotom Wash. But that being unfortunate, Greninja was switched out and Gastrodon came in. The prediction was there, a Will-O-Wisp was made, but unfortunately it was missed, so tit for tat right away. Missed a miss. One maybe a little bit more important than the other, but 2 misses right off the bat. And this goes back and forth the whole first 20 minutes of the match until a bold prediction was made that was either going to make or break a team. And the problem the New York Clinks were having was the Frogadiers had Klefki, one of the most underrated Pokemon in League format in this person's opinion. Klefki got up all layers of regular spikes, which was just destroying the Clinks every time they switched something in. They did have reliable recovery on their team. The only thing immune to it was the Alakazam with Magic Guard and the Rotom Wash with Levitate. But every time Tangela came in, it got poisoned, toxic poisoned, So it was slowly being whittled down. Even with the regenerator, its health just wasn't staying at a stable of enough level that it was going to win this war of attrition. Clefable kept coming in, and unfortunately for Clefable, the other team had a Rapid Spinner and Hitmontop, and Hitmontop was just coming in, sucking up damage from everything, getting switches into Tangela, and just showing how good Hitmontop can be when it is used properly. And it was just keeping the rocks off their side of the field, which was really benefiting the Frogadiers because Entei kept getting switched in, especially mid to late game. And he was just laying down hits and eventually notched up 5 kills for the match. So that was fantastic. Very well planned on the Frogadiers side. There wasn't much the Clinks could do to break the defensive core. When you got Rotom Wash, and you know the other team has Gastrodon, you either need to have a backup, or you need to have HP Grass on your Rotom Wash. And unfortunately, that was not the case this week. There wasn't much they could do to the Gastrodon, and Gastrodon hung around almost the entire match, not going down till late game, and it just stood up very well against most of the Clinks team. So that being relatively well played on the side of the Frogadiers. What ended up happening, which sealed the deal, Klefki was in, and Metagross was in. No. Metagross was switched into a Klefki, while Tangela was in. The Clinks were predicting a switch out of Klefki into something else, and Klefki went for the foul play and just destroyed the incoming Metagross. Wasn't enough to completely take it out, but it took it down to a low enough point where if it was switched out and switched back in, it was dying to the spikes. Now, it was switched out, and Klefki was in. Metagross was switched out at lowest health as it was. At my point, I think it would have just been worth sacking, but that's just my personal opinion. And it was just to the point where Clefable was brought in, and it got paralyzed, which really hindered its longevity and its ability to do much of anything. Didn't get paralyzed very many turns later in the game, but it just didn't really have as effective influence as it could have at that point. So it was paralyzed for the fact of saving the sack of Metagross later in the match. And what sealed the deal later, the Latios was brought in against Clefable. Latios got off a couple... Well, actually, I believe Latios was in and Clefable was switched into it. Latios fired off a pair of Shadow Balls, both of which got a special defense drop on the Clefable. And, I mean, really swung the door closed and was that final nail in the coffin, because that stopped Clefable from being able to 1v1 the Latios that was brought. And based on how much the Moonblast that did hit was doing, had the special defense drops not happened, it could have either chased it out or beat it. But at that point, Entei was just on a tear and was not going to be denied the victory. So very good planning on both sides and very good play. There was just that one mistake switching that really swung the momentum and kept it on the side of the Frogadiers. On a personal note, Papa C mentioned in his commentary that the Entei movie was fantastic, and I'm going to have to disagree with that and throw up the yellow card and let him know if he tries making poor movie critiques again, he's going to be having a talk with this gentleman right here. Now, let's move on to our last match of the week. And the reason I saved this one for last, it was actually the first one that I watched of all of them, but we brought the coach on to the show for the first segment of what's going to be called the Coaching Corner. And what that's going to be is if a coach makes a fantastic play, brings a fantastic set, or brings a fantastic team as a whole that I think needs to be talked about and have the brain picked of the coach a little bit, that's the match and the coach we're going to have on the Coaching Corner. And this week, we are going to bring in Coach of the United Kingler, Willow. So let's talk to him. This week on the Coaching Corner, we are bringing you the Coach of the United Kingler, Willow himself. So, sir, might I congratulate you on the victory this week?
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to stop and have a minute for the Coaching Corner. Now,
that's no problem.
We're bringing you in the first week of the Coaching Corner because I was watching the matches and yours really stuck out to me. It seems like you went in with a fully well-developed plan to handle something that really wrecked your team.
Oh, yeah. That Excadrill, especially after looking at T-Train's team builder, it handled my team so well. Like, the problem with my team is I don't have a ground immunity, and that I knew he was going to bring the Excadrill, and I had to prepare for it. And this is the week that I felt that I prepared the best for any team so far in the league, and it paid off. So I was very happy with how it went.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Now, first thing I'm going to ask you about is how happy were you that Weakness Policy Rock Polish Rhyperior worked and you netted 3 kills with that thing?
Oh my god, it was amazing. I was kind of in a bad position when the Starmie went down, but then I just saw my opportunity. I was like, hang on a minute. The chances are this Rhyperior is going to have some kind of. I thought he'd have Earthquake, and I knew it wouldn't do too much because Rhyperior is so defensive. And I just took my opportunity to start setting up a Rock Polish. And when the Weakness Policy went off, I just had a rush of adrenaline. Just like, oh my god, this is going to work. And it was fantastic.
Well, I can say as a spectator, it was an awesome thing to watch because I saw you set up the Rock Polish, and then I saw the Earthquake go off, and I was like, tell me he's packing the Weakness Policy.
Yeah.
And then I saw it pop when you got hit, and I was like, oh my god, this could be a good game.
Yeah, it's coming. It's on its way now. You know stuff's going down when all of a sudden I'm up +4.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But, that was fantastic to watch. And something else, which, I mean, after Rhyperior went down to the Excadrill, that Trace Gardevoir that was Choice Scarfed. Now, was that like a last-ditch effort you had? Like an emergency button or a last chance?
It really was. Because I figured the thing that did the most damage to my team was Excadrill, and I couldn't just have one answer to it being the Rhyperior. I had to have something as an emergency. If all else fails, I had to be able to bring in this Pokemon and take it down. And I knew that obviously it would be packing Sandrush, and I have a Trace Pokemon lying around being Gardevoir, so I brought that and put Focus Blast on it and just crossed my fingers.
Well, that was fantastic planning on your part. Like you said, even after you were in a bit of a spot, you were able to overcome the odds and pull out the victory this week. So, once again, congratulations on that fantastic planning as well as the victory this week.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thanks for spending the time with us, and that is going to conclude this week's Coaching Corner. Awesome. Looking back at the Atlanta Talonflames coached by T-Train versus United Kingler coached by Willow, the match was a really good match. And even though it was a 3-0 victory in the side of the United Kinglers, this one could have swung either direction. The United Kinglers brought Mega Medicham, Rhyperior, Shaman, Gardevoir, Spiritomb, and Starmie. The Talonflame brought Excadrill, Rotom, Tyranitar, Mega Slowbro, Latios, and Togekiss. And this match come down to what was mentioned in the Coaching Corner, and that was Weakness Policy Rock Polish Rhyperior just wrecking half of the Atlanta Talonflames team before finally going down and leaving Willow in a good enough spot that he could make the plays to finish the game and come out on top with a 3-0 victory. T-Train early in the match, there was a really favorable setup in his favor. Spiritomb was led against Rotom regular form. Rotom ended up going down. He brought in Mega Slowbro, and instead of making what was probably an obvious prediction to switch out as something else was brought in, he stayed in, went for the Calm Mind. Shaman just started destroying Mega Slowbro's face, and it really was a kick in the shin to the momentum the Talonflames were trying to build right off the bat, and it really put them on their heels early. And just as they started clawing back, that weakness policy, rock polishing, Rhyperior just blew a hole through their team. And Trace Gardevoir with the Choice Scarf being a last-ditch effort to save Willow's team from an Excadrill sweep, came in clutch, proved it was the proper thing to do, nailed a Focus Blast, and just took out that Excadrill and more or less sealed the deal for the United Kingler, giving them the 3-0 victory over the Sydney Sea King. Now let's take a look at our league leaders and see what's going on, the top 10 Pokemon in the MVP race. Starting at number 10, we have a Pokemon we just talked about, Rhyperior, racking up a whopping 6 kills over a series of the 3 games it was played in by week 5 in the season. Next is number 9, another Kingler teammate, and that's Mega Medicham, also having 6 kills. Next at number 8, a surprise to me to see something like this on this list, is Mega Diancie. Not a Pokemon I'm relatively accustomed seeing in draft-based format, but apparently it's working. It's knocked up 6 kills by week 5, so it's definitely doing something right. At number 7, we have Mega Altaria, something I'm familiar with seeing on this list. Mega Altaria, always a terror to see in team building. Also having 6 kills at this point. All of those Pokemon having 6 kills and 2 deaths. Now, coming in at number 6, hot and fresh, is Suicune. Suicune always being a pain in the butt. Hard to take down, and once it gets set up, there's no stopping it. Suicune having racked up 8 kills and 4 deaths. Number 5, we have Mega Manectric with 5 kills and no deaths. That is astounding. It has been played 5 different weeks and not taking down once. That is good gameplay. Now, number 4, we have Heatran coming in with 5 kills and no deaths also. Again, if you can bring a Pokemon more than 1 week and it gets 0 deaths, you are doing something right. Number 3, we have Entei. It's been brought 1 week, and in that 1 week it knocked 5 kills out, 0 deaths. Entei putting in the finest of work this week and putting it at number 3 on the league leaders list. Number 2, no surprise to anyone who's ever played in a league format that this Pokemon was allowed in, Manaphy. Manaphy having racked up 6 kills and only 1 death. This thing doing fantastic and just putting in the finest of work always. Now, our number 1 league leader. I had to double check to make sure this was not a mistake. And coming in at number 1 with 12 kills, which is just insane considering it's only been brought 4 weeks. So that's 3 kills a time it's been brought. That's half a team. So for 4 weeks in a row, it has averaged out killing half the team it's been brought against. And only 1 death. Volcarona, the Pokemon who takes 50% damage if you have Stealth Rocks up when it comes in, and you know it's coming, so you know you want to set up Stealth Rocks, is number 1 in the league, and that is just fantastic. So I give a golf clap to Knutsford Kabutops and Tops for having that in the league leaders. That is just fantastic. Now let's take a look ahead and see what our Week 6 matchups are going to be. So next week we'll have the Kabutops versus the Kinglers. We will have the Smeargle versus the Sea Kings, the Cabalions versus the Staraptors, the Wild Charge versus the Frogadiers, the Shellnuts versus the Talonflames, and the Silk Scarfs versus the Clinks. Now, as this is my first week doing the weekly recap, I apologize I'm not able to give a lot of input as to what I'm looking forward to in these matches, as this was really the first week I've been seriously paying attention to the league. So hopefully as we move on, I'll be able to give a little bit more insight and maybe make some predictions as to what we think will happen moving forward. So, alright guys, thank you for putting up with OldManTup in the Week 5 Season 3 recap of the PGL. As always, if you like this video, leave a big ol' thumbs up down below. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you think about the recap. What were some of your favorite plays this week, and what were some of your biggest disappointments this week? Alright guys, it's been OldManTup, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.